Live, trans, and prosper. Hi, I'm Professor Brian David Phillips, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about catharsis and catharsis-like responses. Oh, how interesting this may be. All right, so catharsis, that in drama and film is essentially an experience in which we purge our negative emotions. Aristotle gave us catharsis as a dramatic tool or a dramatic response in his Poetics. For tragedy, which is where he talked about that sort of thing, essentially we have these emotions of fear and pity, and we connect to the hero. The hero has faults, has problems, has issues, and the hero makes mistakes because of these faults. And tragedy ensues. We have an emotional connection. You need to create an emotional connection to your characters, and so that when the hero goes through this tragic journey and experiences loss, our connection to that character causes us to purge our own fear, our own pity, our own negative emotions or dark impulses. Essentially, connect to the character at an emotional level, create an experience whereby that connection increases, and then the emotional journey of the character becomes the viewer's emotional journey. Yay! Catharsis. Now, catharsis is actually incredibly helpful for folks. It's not just limited to tragedy, though. It can be related to other things. And it's not just limited to movies or drama. Although for my intents and purposes, because I teach courses in this, that's what I tend to talk to students about. It can work in music, okay? It is no coincidence that when we get dumped in a romantic relationship goes bad, they just say goodbye. We feel bad for emotional loss. It's not a coincidence that the music we listen to tends to be blues, tends to be music about loss. Oh, she dumped me. She really dumped me. I feel so bad. I feel like I jumped. She dumped me, and I guess I deserve it. Shouldn't have been doing that stuff I did. Oh, yeah. We listen to music that fits our mood, and it actually makes us feel better. It helps us purge those emotions. Now, in terms of drama, and film and literature and life, catharsis for tragedy is not the only way we have this sort of cycle of emotional connection to the character, building experiences, and purging, that is, releasing that energy that we've built. This also works in other ways. Now, the degree of emotional connection may vary. For instance, in comedy, I know that some of my colleagues who teach literature think that tragedy is obviously more literarily worth more than comedy, to which I say there's a technical term in literary studies. It's called bullshit, because comedy is incredibly worthwhile. And I'm not just saying that because I teach classes in comedy. I'm saying it because it's true, too. And we know that Aristotle wrote about comedy, and he also talked about this energetic response stuff. But essentially, comedy, also, we build energy, that is, we anticipation, and we release through the punchline of the joke or the humor. Laughter has cathartic elements to it. We laugh. Okay, R. Buckminster Fuller, he got sick, so what did he do? Locked himself into a hotel and watched a lot of comedies. He also took a lot of vitamin C, but the comedies help. That was weird, because that has nothing to do with the blues example. It's completely opposite. But there you go. Comedy has healing properties as well. It allows us to release energy. So you build up emotional tension and you release. What are some other ways that we do that? Horror. Horror, not horror. Horror. Scary stories, scary films. We build up a connection with the characters. They become us in a way. We follow their journey, and we have this tension build up. Now, of course, in horror films, scary movies, you often have the jump scare. Ooh, jump scare, ooh. And that's kind of an iffy thing, but good, really solid, high-quality horror builds tension. It builds tension and then releases that. Okay, and people like scary movies. Not all people, but a lot of people like them. And because of that release that it gives, it has to release the tension. If a story or film doesn't release the tension, doesn't have the payoff, the audience feels uncomfortable after seeing the film or the drama. Whereas a quality one is going to allow us to have that release, so that we can purge those feelings in and of ourselves. Right? Now, other ways that we do this, connecting emotionally or viscerally, actually. Vicarious experience is a neurological concept in which, by observing something, we connect to it. And we learn through vicarious learning, things like that. But vicarious experience, we have an emotional connection to something. And that can happen through other means too. Action films, the adrenaline junkies who like to watch things, these big special effects things where you have a lot of action, we get connected to that action, but it has to release. Action films are kind of iffy in terms of the release, but they're there. There is a function there. There is an actual thing going on there. Other things that can happen, erotic experiences. Erotic entertainment builds that connection. We have a visceral connection, that's a physical response, and builds tension and connecting and then release. Orgasm, of course, is a function of release. It's not catharsis, but it's really good for you. Yay! Climax and orgasm, of course, are two different things, but most people think of them as the same thing. They are certainly related. Orgasm tends to last longer than climax, but you have climax, orgasmic release, boom. But that's hard to pin down for literature, so to speak, or film, or drama, unless you're doing other things while you're reading or viewing. But certainly that is possible, and it is something that's there. But essentially, catharsis and catharsis-like experiences build a connection to the characters in drama and film. Build a connection to the characters, build that keep that connection going, intensify it through experiences that become emotional in terms of the character and the audience, so that in the payoff, there is an explosion of fear, sorrow, pity, joy, laughter, ecstasy, and the audience feels release as well. Catharsis, or cathartic-like emotional release. Just wanted to punch that in real quick. And for now, though, this is Professor Brian David Phillips saying, live, trance, and prosper. Bye-bye.